My Lords, may I too congratulate the Noble Lord, Lord Alton, and Baroness Berridge for their contributions, and of course for Lord Alton for bringing this subject to us today. There has been a long history of disputes between nomadic herders and farming communities across the Sahel. In Nigeria, attacks are now occurring with such frequency, organisation and asymmetry, as the Noble Lord Alton mentions, that reference to farmer-herder classes are wholly inadequate. Armed with a relatively sophisticated weaponry, particularly AK-47s, the Fulani herder militia is thought to have murdered more men, more women and more children between 2015 and 2017 than Boko Haram. They have overrun and seized property and land and displaced tens of thousands of people. In 2017, herder militia claimed that 800 lives in 53 villages in southern Kaduna alone, burning down over 1,400 houses. As Baroness Berridge pointed out, during most of these well-planned attacks, herders' cattle were nowhere in sight. Over 180,000 people in Benue State are currently living in IDP camps because the herder militia violence has displaced them. Over 500,000 displaced people are living in temporary accommodation, and over 80,000 school-aged children are living in IDP camps with no access to education. Attacks continue unabated, with seemingly little government action. This has entrenched impunity. Apart from verbal condemnations, there has been no action to end the violence. No attacker has been brought to justice. With perpetrators emboldened, attacks by herder militia have now spread to southern Nigeria. No longer able to rely on the government for protection or justice, communities are seeing a growth in vigilantism and retaliatory justice. The growth in murders of villagers and community leaders in Benue has also led to calls for President Buhari to consider his position and for the reassessment of security arrangements as a matter of urgency. As the Noble Lord Alton mentioned on the 24th of March this year, the respected former Army Chief of Staff and Defence Minister, Lieutenant General Theophilus Danjuma, stated that the armed forces, and I quote, were not neutral, and I quote again, that they collude in the ethnic cleansing of riverine states by the Fulani militia. Earlier this week, I too had the opportunity to meet with the Honourable Kwabum Rirande Shahula, courtesy of the advocacy organisation CSW. The Honourable Shahulu is a member of the Nigerian Federal House of Representatives in Taraba State. Among his wide-ranging writing and editorial activities, he is currently chair of the National Assembly Army Committee, which gives him unique insight into Nigeria's current security challenges. In our discussions, he was able to rebut the claim that the anti-grazing laws were the cause of the spread of violence. The only states with anti-grazing laws were in fact Taraba, Benue and Ikiti, yet attacks have been occurring over 10 states. For example, in Plateau State, where there are no anti-grazing laws, there have been many killings, including last weekend, as Lord Alton mentioned, when over 200 civilians were reported killed. Interestingly, while there is some evidence that some of the violence has a religious dimension, the Honourable Shawulu argued that the only affected area was Adwamara Estate, which is predominantly Christian. Other local areas with similar land and other resources had suffered no attacks, be they Christian or Muslim. The overriding concern is that the growing instability and lawlessness in the region was providing fertile ground for kidnapping, banditry and terrorism with impunity. If this is not addressed, there is a real danger that the activities of Boko Haram, ISIS and similar terrorist groups could penetrate and destabilise the whole region. If not addressed, this could create a conflict and humanitarian crisis on a scale which would engage the international community and the UN Security Council and the UK. The prospect of terrorist cells spreading through Nigeria, Africa's most populous state, and to territories beyond to threaten Europe cannot lightly be dismissed. I would urge the government to act now, working alongside their Nigerian counterparts and fellow Commonwealth members, particularly while the UK holds the post-Chogam chair in office. I would suggest that DFID might examine the aid programme to Nigeria to ensure that provision is made for the communities that have been victims of the Fulani attacks. They should also ensure that minority communities in the north, affected by Boko Haram attacks, have access to humanitarian aid. There are also issues such as collective Commonwealth support in promoting the non-discriminatory and even application of the law to restore and strengthen faith in the law. Finally, my lords, the attacks that Nigerian people are suffering can surely be mitigated, if not eroded, with the support of agencies of the UN, the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, and the faith community and international NGOs. Can the Minister, in her response or in writing, set out how the UK might plan to play a primary role in such a venture?
My Lords, I join with others in thanking the Noble Lord Alton for securing a debate